In the past few months, each member of BLACKPINK released their own respective project as a soloist outside of their group management label, YG. 3 of the 4 girls had created their own companies and signed with record labels to release these projects, namely English language and America-based organizations. Rosie and Jisoo had released a well-received album and EP respectively, but neither were put under too much of a microscope. The other 2 members, however, Jennie and Lisa, had formed their respective labels and released their albums within the same week as one another. Both albums were fully in English and displayed as a forte into the Western English-speaking market. This was, without a doubt, a brave choice. They're both fluent in English, but they've been finding most of their success among existing fans of K-pop. In fact, the K-pop sphere was delighted by these projects. Their established fan bases are enthralled at the prospect of them becoming their own acts, and the reception from the audiences who are even just familiar with the BLACKPINK members was generally positive. However, the critical response, especially from the American audiences that they were marketing to, varied a shocking amount between these 2 artists who had come from the same group for the past 8 years. Jennie's project, dubbed Ruby, was acclaimed and praised as a great, cohesive album with lots of impressive features and intriguing concepts. On the other hand, Lisa's album Alter Ego was vastly criticised and disliked by many reviewers. Seeing this difference in response, I understood the difference but was confused as to what exactly went wrong outside of the world of K-pop for Lisa specifically. Before we start, I'd like to clarify one thing. These are not my opinions. The aim here is to figure out what exactly was the deciding factor between the K-pop audience and the Western audience. What I'm reiterating in this video is the opinion of the general public, but if you'd like to know my overall opinion, I'll tell it now. I was shocked by the sheer lack of approval of Alter Ego, because I thought it was alright and, in my opinion, it was exactly what Lisa was always going to put out as a solo album. I agree with most of the positive reviews about Ruby, but even with my perceived mediocrity of Alter Ego, I definitely didn't expect it to be so hated. I thought each project had its own respective quality to showcase, and both were jam-packed with songs that have a high potential to be hits. Just because I'm telling these critics' opinions does not mean I agree with all of them. The purpose of this video is to see what went wrong or right with these releases. Why was Ruby so well received, but Alter Ego so disliked?
This that pretty girl mantra, this that flaunt, you just touched down in LA.
Jennie's solo album Ruby was named after the artist herself, but in an unconventional way. Her full stage name is Jennie Ruby Jane, as most know, but a bit of confusion stands by the fact that it's not her real name. Her birth name is Jennie Kim, without a middle name. She lived in New Zealand for a majority of her childhood, however, and the complete English name she chose for herself was Jennie Ruby Jane. It sticks out, doesn't it? It fits perfectly for her as well, as that's the kind of person that Jennie wants to be. She wants to stand out from the crowd and be her own idol, and a personal album was the best way to showcase her skills and introduce herself as a person to unfamiliar audiences. Rather than exactly being about her life, however, the album is actually inspired by a Shakespeare play written in the late 1500s, As You Like It. Continuing this aspect of plays and theatre, the album cover shows Jennie opening a theatre curtain, which she mentioned symbolises the beginning of a new chapter in her musical career. Jennie proclaims in this album, as Shakespeare proclaims in As You Like It, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." This quote continues on to display the 7 acts that each person goes through in life, a concept which she explores in the lyrical themes of this album. Ruby details many emotions, which also reflects Jennie's wish to showcase her many musical personas in her debut project. Many AOTY and Rate Your Music users praised this album with very abnormally high reviews, saying things like, Jennie might have just proven herself as the strongest solo artist in BLACKPINK with this album. It was hailed as bold and rebellious, yet perfectly blending in at the same time. The album mirrors everything that Western listeners love, from R&B influences to hard-hitting synths that feel addictive and keep the listener coming back. The structural choices behind this album are interesting without a doubt, giving it an unpredictable energy that keeps it engaging for every audience member. I went into this album with low hopes as I wasn't a fan of her older solo projects like You and Me or the pre-release Mantra. Funnily enough though, I came out with a new love of Jennie's voice and talents in composition. The main issue presented was with the so-called shallowness within the lyricism of this album, and to that I'd like to bring up a counter-argument. To existing fans of her in the scheme of K-pop, this album is very personal because it details actual stories about her life. However, to critics who are used to the personal lyricism that's very common among Western artists, this album doesn't stick out in any way. Personal anecdotes are uncommon in K-pop as an industry, mostly due to the public perception of a perfect idol that's less rare in Korea than it is in the US. A good majority of the Korean GP wants someone who has zero flaws, the exemplary model of an ideal celebrity. In the US, we're used to a more saturated scene of openness and lyrics that really detail what's going on in that person's life. For example, if a song like Duetchi's Denial is a River was released by a K-pop artist, it would be legitimately thrilling and gasp-worthy. The details of self-destructive tendencies, mental illness, and even just sex would shock the K-pop scene. In a world where even relationships are taboo, why would personal stories be common? This criticism is widespread, but not as widespread as the criticism for Jennie's groupmate just a week before. Lisa's alter ego was released in late February of this year. It was preceded by 3 pre-release singles throughout the span of the latter half of 2024. The important thing to note about those, however, is that these 3 songs are completely different in concept, in vibe, in musical style, in really everything. The Alter Ego album rollout explains this, but in a slightly convoluted way. The 5 different characters, or alter egos as she refers to them, are based on the 5 personas that Lisa puts on depending on the context of the situation. This includes the final quote-unquote pre-release, Lifestyle, that came out a day before the release of Alter Ego. I think it's quite an interesting perspective onto Lisa as a person and how she views herself. So before I talk about the sonic concepts of the album, let's discuss this thematic concept and look into it a little more. Roxy, the alter ego she shows off in Rockstar, fuels the exact persona you'd expect of a pop diva like Lisa. She's loud, loves the attention and commands the crowd. With an almost obnoxiously boisterous personality, Roxy is the stereotype of what the media expects from Lisa. It's a personality she'll delve into on occasion, but she wants her fans to know she's deliberately not everything you should expect from her. Kiki is the alter ego that Lisa showcases in New Woman. She's the more chill and charismatic side of Lisa. To me, this screams stoner, without exactly saying it. Sunny is the love-struck alter ego that's shown in Moonlit Floor. This song and character are still debatably strange to me, and I don't exactly know how to cover it. Sunny is deeply in love with her significant other, and also, she's French. I'm really not sure how to expand on this, unfortunately. Speedy is another alter ego I'm not quite sure how to summarize. Her thing is a need for speed, as implied by her name. The basis of this character is racing, speed, and just going fast, I guess. She's got a pet cheetah, if that helps. Vixie is the most controversial and the villain of Lisa's personas. Now, I felt that this was far too weird to be completely unironic, and I actually saw it as a more humorous perspective on Lisa as a person. Vixie is everything the quote-unquote haters want Lisa to be. She's pure evil in such a horrifically exaggerated way, everything anti-C in Lisa. This is further cemented in Vixie's title song of FUTW, which served as the title track or lead single for this project. Sonically, this album is very well produced. It's got plenty of catchy hits that stay in your head for a while after listening. The versatility between each track is definitely reminiscent of Ruby, and the lyricism is just without a doubt well written. So, what's different between the 2 albums? Why have critics given them such differing reviews? Ruby averages anywhere from a 7 to a 9, while Alter Ego is stuck in the middle between 3s and 5s. Even if personal opinion differs, critical opinion should really be pretty consistent in theory. first, let's talk about what went right with Ruby. Ruby contains some absolutely daring and ambitious songwriting choices, a theme that echoes throughout the album. This album contains some real hard emotion, and Jennie proves herself a great soloist, with her fantastic delivery that varies throughout the album. The synth bass on a lot of these songs is one of the most notable things about the project. It helps make the songs so addicting and great to give a listen. The simultaneous cohesion between the songs and variety in terms of genres is easily the best part of the listening experience of this album. Dem Joints is also credited as a producer on a lot of the songs on this album, someone who is popular among Western listeners as well as K-pop fans. That, compared with the wonderful choice of features, just makes this a great album in its own right, let alone a great debut album. The Western reception of Alter Ego, especially with those unfamiliar with Lisa, was easily much worse than the local reception. Squint, and it's hard to work out what exactly Lisa stands for, emotionally or conceptually, The Guardian wrote. She's fond of name-checking brands and flexing her wealth, but never in a way that feels revealing or idiosyncratic. The critic mentioned that, despite claiming countless times to be breaking borders, it never feels boundary-pushing in any material way. Many agree that the concept of the 5 personalities, or alter egos that Lisa presents in this album, are just an excuse for it to lack any sense of cohesion. As nmixx calls it, it's less a clear artistic vision and more a showcase of sonic experimentation. The only consistent theme seems to be bragging and flaunting. But what does it feel like to exist at that level of untouchable stardom? nmixx argues again. Instead of offering insight, the album coasts on surface-level spectacle, painting a picture of power and privilege but never revealing the person inside it. Despite this seemingly constant criticism, most nitpickers agree that this album is not without a few hits, musically at least. New Woman and Chill are both praised as 2 of the best songs Lisa has put out, agreeing that the album can't be quote-unquote awful when it still has some great tracks among it. To Western audiences, it might seem as though BLACKPINK's members are slightly struggling with the transition from K-pop to the American pop scene, and that's alright. They're used to one world, and if their first entry into another isn't up to par, who's to judge? A debut album doesn't have to be incredible, especially if it's the first of many to come. The way I always see it is this: the more music in the world, the better. The girls are still finding and exploring their artistic identity and what they want out of their solo careers. I wouldn't be shocked if the next project from each member completely defies my expectations. In fact, I'd love to see them progressively try out new styles. What's important is that a lot of people got a lot of joy out of these projects, and for those who didn't, it's easy and fine to just ignore it and move on to music that's more enjoyable. As a closing note, please don't start fan wars in my comments. I'm looking forward to some nice discussion about these projects, but remain respectful to both the artists and the people you're discussing with. And if you're so mad that you're going to hurl insults, let it be me and not someone who'll be severely affected by it. Either way, thank you for watching.